So, hi everyone, and welcome to our session, Linux, SCOM, and OMS. On stage we are Stefan Roth, and my name is Stefan Joner. And if you attended our last year's session at SCU, you may already know our 30-second audience check. So, first question to all of you, who is using SCOM and to monitor Linux or Unix, maybe? Okay, couple of guys, cool.
So the second one is, who is using OMS and Unix Linux Agent in production, or has it installed or touched it? No one? Oh.
Okay.
Cool.
So, and in general, who's using OMS in production? Okay, few.
Cool. So, who doesn't know either SCOM or OMS? Okay, so you should be aware that this is a level 300 session. And the slide demo ratio is 2.8 to 1. So, for every 3 slides, you got a demo. Cool. And who is already bored?
Perfect.
So then first I would like to introduce myself. My name is Stefan Roth. I work for ITnetX. I'm a cloud and data center MVP. I'm active in the community. I run a blog, stefanroth.net, and I also started a new blog one, healthshell.com, where I just blog about PowerShell, which I use a lot in my daily life. Then you can see my Twitter handles up there if you want to follow me about the latest and greatest news. Then Stefan.
Perfect. I work for ITnetX too. I used to work with Linux a lot before I joined ITnetX, but unfortunately I forgot almost everything about it. So. But I also do some blog posts from time to time. If you're interested, go to my blog and take a look, or you can also follow me on Twitter, of course. And so I'll hand back to Stefan, yeah?
Okay. Agenda. So first we will talk a bit about SCOM and cross-platform overview, what's new in SCOM 2016. That's probably what you all expect. Then about OMS, cross-platform integration, and of course we cannot show all demos what you can do with OMS and the Linux, but we picked some 2-3 demos to show how it works, so we get in touch and get a feeling for it. Of course, demos. So who did attend Ed Wilson's keynote? Oh, I guess few. Okay, so he was talking about the event, how it was 25 years ago. Everything was there in the Windows world. And then a bit later, it's not 25 years, ago, there was a guy like this. Who knows that guy? I guess all. He used to say things like that. Or in a bit shorter form, things like that. It's the same, just as I said. And the one I like most is this one. Okay? So, but as Ed Wilson said, time flies by, things change, also the boss changed. And then, I'm not sure if it's the right word, but I call it the Linux Liberator. This guy appeared. And all of a sudden, we could see news like this. Microsoft loves Linux. And also, again, Microsoft loves Linux open source. And even more of them. I could stand here for an hour and get more. Then you can even download wallpapers like that. You can get from Microsoft buttons where you find things like that. And all of a sudden, the Windows administrator is facing a new problem or new technology or whatever you want to call it. And he might look like this. So if we go back in time, there was and is an increasing momentum. It started in 2007 when Ops Manager started to support monitoring Linux systems, Unix systems. We got later on some development on Java application enterprise servers. And then Convim Manager came and VMM and so forth. That's all just the on-premise products we have where we see the momentum going on. So you can see up to now, now in SCOM we have the Apache MySQL support and which we can use. So that's the stuff I would like to talk about. For those who are not so familiar with the Linux, how it works, the monitoring in SCOM, I just want to show you briefly how it works. On the left hand, from your side, there is SCOM management server. We have the SDK service, we have config service, we have the health service, and on the right hand side, we have the Windows machine monitored with a Windows agent. That's standard. So if the agent works, then it pulls the management packs from the management server, and the workflows start running, all the monitors, all the rules, get the data, and as soon there is exceeding some thresholds or so, performance data is floating back to the management server. That's the way it works in the Windows world. Now, in the Linux world, we have a very lightweight SIM server, the OMS Agent, and SIM, they always say it's similar to WMA on the Windows side, and it is extensible with some plugins or modules for this agent. And there are two key protocols which you need for this agent. For the entire agent maintenance, like installing, upgrading, uninstalling the agent, you need the SSH connection. For authentication, you need the sudo elevation, and the SSH key for authentication purposes, and that's all for agent maintenance. After you deploy the agent, all management tasks will be done by the WS-MAN protocol. It's a SOAP-based protocol, and the entire monitoring channel goes over that protocol and monitors the agent. Here you might notice that there is an arrow pointing from the health service to the agent or to the WinRM client. And because of that, the management server has a lot more to do than on the Windows side. So that means that you can put less agents onto a management server pointing to it than a Windows agent. So it's about 6 times less, I guess. There are 3,000 Windows agents per management server and about 500 for Linux agents. But this changed. Now in 2016, you can set the registry key. They wrote, I guess, a new API, which is more efficient, and you can put twice as much Linux agents onto the management server. So that's basically how it works. To get the short overview, what you get out of the box for Linux. I'm not sure if you can see it. There is the Red Hat, SUSE, and all the distribution. You can get them also on the TechNet. On the Unix side, AX, HPUX, and Solaris. On top of that, you have CPU performance, memory counters, not availability, it's memory statistics, disk availability, and performance, network performance, processes, and of course some log files are also monitored. So those are the basic management packs you get from Linux. After you installed, for example, I use always SUSE. And on top of that, you might have some special needs, and you are not so familiar with MP authoring. There are templates you can run, You just enter what you want. There is one for log file. So you point to a log file on your Linux machine, provide a regex expression, and then this file gets parsed. And if it finds this expression, it will trigger an alert. Next is a process monitoring. So if you, for example, have multiple Java processes in the background running, and you want to monitor them if there are more than 2, then you can set a threshold. Or if there are less than 2, you can get a notification or an alert. And yeah, you even can provide a regular expression to distinguish the name of the Java processes. So you can filter them out. It knows which one you want to monitor. And there are the command line rules and monitors. You can run wizard, provide a command line entry or a shell command, just a one-liner, and get the output of it and trigger then the rule and monitors. And we have seen on the previous slide that there is also the Java Enterprise Application Server monitoring, just briefly on the side. What you can do, you have several enterprise application server, WebLogics and Tomcat, JBoss and so on, where you have basically 2 flavors. The first one is just the basic monitoring, where you discover what is on that server. And then Microsoft wrote some extensions for it, and you get some deeper monitoring about Java virtual machines, garbage collector processes, and so on. So that's out of the box what you get up to now, 2012 R2. New 2016, I mean, it's available, Apache monitoring, since more than a year. Available for 2016 TP2 in SCOM. I would like to show you a short architecture slide, how it works. So the OMS server, we heard that it is extensible. And so Microsoft wrote their module for it. It will automatically load it if you deploy the agent to the Apache server. You get installed, and it will discover that there is Apache, and then the module is loaded. On the other side, there is the Apache server, where Microsoft also has written a SIM provider for it. And you need to deploy the SIM provider manually. So there is a task you need to run, then it will install it. So the basic steps are like this. You install the management packs, you run the task, and your Apache server is monitored. What do you get out of this monitoring? That's what I want to show you right now. So can you see it? Oh, is it okay? So you deploy the agent, and it will run a discovery to find the Apache server. If you have this guy discovered, then you have here on the right-hand side, you can, if this works, like this, here, you can see the tasks. One, it says a load monitoring module. That's when the SIM provider gets deployed to the Apache server. Then reload and restart our Apache server. Or if you want to unload the SIM provider from Microsoft, then you can run this task here. Or there is a task also if you want to run the discovery immediately. Click this task, and all these properties here gets deployed, so it will trigger the discovery script. Here we see the module from Microsoft. It's the first one, that's one. And you can see there are some details. It's version 2.4, and I think 2.2 is supported. And next there are some monitoring about the virtual host, health state of that. If you would have some SSL certificates, if they would expire, you get notified, an alert for it. And of course, there are also some performance data. Here there is a view about all the performance counters all together, or then separate, for example, a virtual host error rate. So that means if you get 400 errors on the client side or 500 errors on the server side, then there is statistics, how many per minute, and those gets collected, and you can then run reports on it. Virtual host performance, there are several counters. Okay, like this. You see requests per seconds, errors per minute, and so on the server. And of course, host response time, what the response time is. In addition, you get also some reports delivered with this management pack. Here, HTTP server performance, I open this report, and those who know SCOM, they will see when it opens, it's the same as all SCOM reports. Okay, I need to select the object I want. That's my Apache server. I go back to this month, first day. That's when I installed it. And then you get some performance data back. Here nicely you could drill down, total percent CPU, and busy work collection, several counters. That's a short overview of the Apache monitoring. You like it? I mean, there are, I guess, people, they know a lot about Apache. They can better tell if those are the right performance counters. But I think you get it's for free, it's open, it's for an open source product supporting Microsoft. It's a nice monitoring for first step. So, okay, cool. Next one is Icicle Monitoring, or MariaDB, or however you pronounce it. I also would like to show the architecture, how it works. So again, you have the OMS server, or the Linux+SCOM agent on the right-hand side. You have the Icicle module, and it gets installed automatically. I mean, if you deploy the Icicle afterwards, so it's the same with Apache, then you need to run a script, and then it will reinstall this module for you. On the other side, there is Icicle server. There is no kind of provider. You just need to create a user, a monitoring user on the Icicle database. And then you need to run the task again, or you can provide authentication file. And then Icicle is already monitored. So these are the steps, how it works. Again, install management pack, create user account, run task, and wait for the discovery to run. I give you now a short overview or demo about the Icicle monitoring. Okay, here's this guy, Icicle server. Open this. Okay. Here again, deploy the agent, and then there is a task. Like this. Here. Here you can see the default credentials. Or again, an update discovery property task to discover the properties. As soon as you have deployed the user in Icicle run this task, you can go to override, provide the username credentials, hit run, and it will discover it. It will use the runner's account, privileged runner's account for all the discoveries. Again, here you see the what gets discovered from the Linux server. There is a summary dashboard. Here you see the here's the database. There's another view over here. The average connection use and some details. Just very see in one view what you have installed. So I also deployed some databases. They get discovered automatically, like this one here. You see SCU, MySQL, and so that's the way it looks. It's not monitored. It just discovers the object and sees that there is a database and the properties. Okay, and now let's switch to the performance counters. There are some DB, buffer pool performance, key cache, server cache, query cache, table cache. Who wants to monitor MySQL, or after this demo he thinks, oh, that's cool, I want to use that? Oh, a few. Okay, cool. Also, the management pack structure is very easy. There are only, for Apache MySQL, there are 3 MPs you have to install. So it's a library, and then those are the other MySQL and Apache are on top of it. So that is so. And as you can see, the counters, it's for free. Why not? And the versions that are supported, I think for MySQL it's 5.5.1, 5.5, 5.6, 5.7, and for MariaDB 5.5 and 10, if I remember right. Okay, and again there are some reports you could run. DB buffer pool performance. That's what I want to know. This month, first day, select the object. And then I hit run, and again I get some nice performance chart up here. So I think for every performance count you have a report. Must be like that. So you can run reports, some historic reports. What's also nicely integrated, if you have Linux monitored, here is a diagram view. And then you can see that on this, on this server, there is MySQL. And then you can see the objects, databases, and also some Apache, and there is just one website running. Okay. So those management packs are new, and then they will only run on SCOM 2016. And the demo again. So I will briefly show you what other things are new on or in SCOM 2016. I started to blog about. Those who are reading my blog, they will see that some they know. The first one, which was a pain in the past, when you discovered agents, you always needed to provide the credentials. Now, in this version, you can provide here, run as account. Wow, cool. It will save you some time and some typing. The next one I want to show you are the tasks. now you get the ability to run basically any script, any Unix script within the SCOM console. You can trigger it. What I did, I used Perl. I don't know any Perl, so I had to look it up. And finally, I figured out how it works. So there is I don't show how a task, you can build a task, but there you provide the script. You see user bin Perl, and then I define here or load in the .NET the ping classes, and then I execute here. And what this task does, it pings just my host, the DC01 master AD. So I can go to the Linux server.
Why choose Perl, Stefan, and not just a bash script?
What?
Why choose Perl and not just a bash script?
Because we had the command line or the command shell rules available or tasks, and now I want to show that you can use scripts, another scripting language than the bash. So that's the reason why to make a big difference. I have here the Linux server, open the task pane, and then I should have here a Perl ping. I run the task, and it takes a while. It does it 10 times, I think, and then we're in time. Okay. So, yeah, okay. It will output an IP address and the IP address, and if it was okay, the ping. Another one, there is also some support for, I showed you that you could run command shell or command line rules and monitors. Now you can also provide those scripts for the rules and monitors. So I basically used the same script, the same Perl script, and modified it to build a performance rule. So because I'm lazy, I'm reusing stuff. Here you can see the output of the task. The rules, the performance rule I call the ping performance. Nothing else than, again, you run the wizard and provide here the same. It's basically the same script, except I took out the loop. So it just fires off, gets a result, an int, the duration, how long it took. And I feed this back to the module, and come on. So I created a view down here, demo, and here it's the rule which I created. So it's running a Perl script, getting the ping time from my domain controller, and it shows it here. The same happens for the monitors. It's exactly the same. I created a 3-state monitor, and then I provide, depending on how long it took to ping the host. So usually it's 5 milliseconds, I think, here. Then if it's less, then it's okay. If it's more, then I get an alert. It's the same. The last one, which most people probably are not aware, and I will blog about soon. If you go to the object discovery and to the logical disk here, there is an override. Override, sorry, here. Yep. Yeah. Which you can do. So you can exclude file system by name or by type. before you always, I need to cancel, close. Before you always had the file system discovered, and any file system, logical, where is it here? The disk, here. You get all those discovered, and that could be a pain sometimes. Now you can exclude to providing a regular expression, the name, for example, /tmp, or the file system type, that's the BT, RFS, or XFS. Enter what you want to exclude, and wait until the next discovery runs, and then it will disappear. So you don't have to create any group, add any objects from here, make an override for that discovery, so that pain is gone. That's also new. I guess I'm in time, and that's it from my side. Now Stefan will show the tool for the real man.
Yeah, I will try to give you kind of an overview of OMS for Linux, or of the OMS Agent for Linux. I will not go into very much detail about what is OMS and how it works and all this stuff, because there are plenty of other sessions which are covering OMS in detail. But to start, maybe just a quick overview how OMS architecture looks like on a high level, maybe. So if you are using OMS, you will have to deploy agents on your Windows and your Linux machines. These agents are sending the data up to OMS. So if you are already using SCOM agents, or if you already have installed SCOM agents on your machines, you can use these agents, so you don't have to necessarily install OMS. On Windows, it's the same agent. On Linux, you have to use OMS agents sometimes if you, it depends sometimes on the modules or on the things you want to have in OMS later on. So if you're using SCOM agents, these agents are reporting to SCOM management servers, or as they do it already, and the SCOM management servers are sending the data up to log analytics of OMS. And if you are using just the OMS agents, these are reporting directly to log analytics, or are sending the data directly to log analytics. The data which is sent to OMS is encrypted by using a certificate-based authentication, and you're also using a secret key when you are registering the agents with OMS. So the data is secure in transfer up to OMS, up to your OMS workspace. And of course, if you're accessing the workspace, you have to log in with your credentials and all this stuff. Right. If you don't have a connection, or if your agents do not have a connection to OMS, or they have no internet connection, anything, they will store the data locally for some time. And they will try to reconnect, of course. And if they reestablish a connection to OMS, they will resend the data which they cached locally for the time they did not have a valid or an internet connection. So for the OMS agent in Linux, it shows, or it is pretty similar to the Linux agent for SCOM. You also have this OMI server, like this open management infrastructure server, which works with various providers. And the providers which are used in the OMS agent for Linux are pretty much the same as they are in the SCOM agent for Linux. For example, we have the operating system provider, which is basically The same as in SCOM Agent, we also have Apache and MySQL MariaDB providers, which are the same as Stefan explained before for the SCOM Agent. The OMS Agent is based on Fluentd. Fluentd is an open source project. It is kind of a daemon or a software which collects log files. It is used a lot in Linux environments, especially together with Elasticsearch and Kibana to collect log files and to visualize log files, pretty much the same way as we do it with OMS. So Fluentd also has various plugins which you can use. So the OMS Agent for Linux is pretty flexible, so you can write your own plugins which can hook up to the OMS Agent or can hook up to actually to Fluentd and send data up to Fluentd or enable Fluentd to collect data from these systems. That's pretty much the thing Microsoft did for Docker, for example, and Zabbix and Nagios are working a bit different. There, the OMS Agent is just collecting log files from Zabbix and from Nagios and sends them up to OMS afterwards. Pretty new is the Collecti thing. Collecti is, I will go into detail afterwards for Collecti, but Collecti is only available with the newest OMS Agent for Linux, and this brings a lot of new possibilities into the OMS Agent for Linux because you can connect to this Collecti software, which brings you a lot of performance data, for example, of your Linux machines. So, right, and the data is actually sent from the OMS Agent to log analytics. It goes through a SSL tunnel, so it's protected. And we also have this OMS config provider, which gets the configuration from OMS from time to time. OMS Agent for Linux is available for various operating systems. As you see, we have Oracle Linux, we have Red Hat, Ubuntu, all this stuff. You can even run it on AWS Linux images. So there's really no reason not to use OMS Agent for Linux with your machines. And I will now go into a little bit of detail for the Collecti part. I will also do or show you a demo afterwards, which contains this Collecti thing. Actually, Collecti is a daemon, a Linux daemon, which collects performance data of your machines. It has available many plugins, such called read plugins or write plugins. Read plugins are plugins like ping or maybe like uptime or CPU, all the stuff you know maybe from the Windows server side. Collecti collects these informations. For example, it collects information about uptime. How long is my server running now? And it can afterwards write this information to a file, for example, or it can also send this information to other services by using these write plugins. That's what OMS Agent for Linux uses. OMS Agent for Linux installs or activates a HTTP write plugin of this Collecti and configures it actually to send all the data it collects from performance or maybe from database plugins or from users. Like it all collects this stuff and sends it through this write HTTP plugin. I think it's port 26,000 and writes it to the OMS Agent, which afterwards forwards it to log analytics. yeah, that's pretty much it for the slides, my part. And I will go to the demo now and show you how you can install the OMS Agent for Linux. I hope this works. And I will also show you how you can activate Collecti for your OMS Agent for Linux, and how you can also create your, I will not go into detail about creating your dashboards, but I will show you an example of a Linux dashboard in OMS, which can be done with with a custom dashboard in OMS. So, maybe first of all, who of you is aware of the Linux subsystem which was introduced in Windows 10 a few weeks ago, probably? Okay, some of you? Cool. You can activate a pretty cool Linux subsystem in Windows 10 now, if you have installed the anniversary update, the latest update of Windows 10. And this pretty much gives you a cool Ubuntu bash. It's based on the latest Ubuntu version. And as far as I can tell, it's really working very well. So you don't have to use putty anymore, for example, just to connect to your Linux servers. You can really use the bash. You also have access to, for example, your files. Oh, sorry. I'm already connected to a server in this shell, so I have to do this one.
So I even tried to install the Linux agent for OMS in this bash subsystem.
Oh yeah, you did a blog post about
I
this.
did a blog post about it. So I ran into some errors, but I collected some data. I didn't fix the errors, all of them, but it works. So you can install halfly the OMS Linux agents in bash.
And as you can see, you really have access also to your Windows file system. So you can open your files from this Linux shell, or you can, of course, also write something in a file somewhere in, for example, ctemp. Oh. And this one shows up here. That's really, I would encourage you to use this shell and test it, and yeah, if you have access to Linux machines or if you work with Linux machines, try it out. So, I will connect to one of my lab machines now. As you can see, this is an Ubuntu machine. It's really new. I just installed it this morning. And if you want to install the OMS agent for Linux now, you will find the source for this agent on GitHub. There's a GitHub project for the OMS agent for Linux. It's all open source. And you also find documentation here about how to install the agent. But for now, before installing the agent on my machine here, I will install Collecti. Wait. This will install some packages, also some default plugins. Collecti comes with some plugins enabled by default, and I will show you afterwards how you can enable other plugins or disable default plugins. Already installed, that only takes some seconds. And now we can alter configuration of Collecti. Collecti configuration is stored in ECC collectd conf. Oh, of course that does not work. That's it. And oh, that's not really readable. I see now. Okay, but now it's getting a little bit better. So you can see these default plugins are enabled after installing Collecti. So you have pretty cool things like disk and IQ load, of course, is very valuable in Linux environments. And you have memory, for example. And I will now enable the uptime and users plugin. Oh, users already enabled. So we should find uptime. Oh, right here. That's it. We'll enable uptime. And we're now ready to install the OMS Agent. If you are installing the OMS Agent, you will have to set Collecti option. I'll show you quickly here. Oh, it's not found here. Okay, let's go back.
So you basically uncommented the lines in the config file to get the performance counter activated, right?
Yep, that's it. A little bit.
Or plugins, no counters.
So this should get me the Linux Agent installation package. It's basically a script and some dep and RPM files. And while this is downloading, I can show you on another machine what the installer will do for Collecti to configure this thing.
So installing Agent is basically downloading the agent to your machine, and then you need to provide the workspace ID and a secret key, and those are two commands. Run this command, and then this will install the agent.
And when the agent installs, it creates a conf file, this OMS conf file in the Collecti configuration. Collecti will load this configuration file, and if you look at it, it's pretty simple. It just activates this write HTTP plugin and tells it, okay, write to localhost port 26,000 OMS Collecti URL, and this pretty much activates Collecti to send all the stuff it collects from performance data and so on to OMS Agent. Okay, download complete. So we can install OMS Agent just by using this command. You have to provide your workspace ID, which you can find, of course, in your OMS portal. And you also have to specify your key. Oh. And you will have to, if you want to use Collecti, you have to give a Collecti option. Oh, and of course you have to install Python. That's it. OMS installation checks for Apache installations and for MySQL installations on this Linux box, also for Docker installations. If it finds Docker or MySQL or Apache, it will automatically install the Apache or MySQL providers, which we saw in the slides before. It's pretty much the same as with SCOM Agent too. Okay, that's it. OMS Agent is installed. We have to restart Collecti service. Perfect, and that should now give us a new computer in our solution. Let's see if that works. Maybe it takes some time. That's an example of a Linux. Yeah, question? I did not restart the OMS agent. I just restarted the Collecti. Yeah, because OMS writes this conf file, this OMS.conf file in the Collecti configuration, and just to apply this configuration, we have to restart Collecti. Yeah, that's a dashboard which I created with a custom dashboard solution in OMS. Every one of you is capable of creating your own dashboards in OMS. So I did an example which, for example, which shows you the logged in users on your Linux VMs over time. I also configured Collecti to ping all my machines in my lab. So I configured Collecti on my lab gateway to ping all the other lab machines, and the gateway is now pushing this information which Collecti collects from this ping plugin up to OMS. So I will have a nice dashboard which shows me how latency may be in my lab. And I also have a dashboard which shows me the uptime of my servers. Yeah, I think we have to.
Yeah, just to make sure. So you use Bash on the Linux machine, the subsystem. Then you build an SSH connection to your Linux server, right?
Yeah, I used the Linux subsystem Bash on my Windows machine, and I just SSH'd into my lab machine, into my lab gateway.
That's a key scenario, a reason you could use this Bash on a Windows machine, so you can connect to other Linux servers using SSH. I think that's very cool. It works very well. Because everything, it's Linux. It's not that Microsoft has written this Linux thing, it's Ubuntu.
It is.
Okay.
Perfect. So cool. I'll hand over to you for the MySQL demo.
There is another one. There is syslog. We are able to monitor. If you remember the keynote from Ed Wilson, he said that he has a Cisco device, you can configure it, point it to a syslog server, and you could usually then upload this data to OMS for further analyzing the syslog information. I want to show you just in a brief demo, an overview. What is supported is syslog ng, rsyslog supported daemons. syslog is not supported. Usually it works like that the syslog messages get sent to the syslog daemon, and then it's routed to the OMS agent, and this will forward it to OMS. What you can configure on GitHub, there's documentation, how you can escape, no, that's not the right word, but pass by the syslog daemon, so you can send the messages directly to the OMS agent. And there are some recommendations about what protocol to use. So if you have lots of messages to send between the daemon and the agent, usually it uses UDP. So if you need a more reliable, robust connection, so you can switch it to TCP. There are some best practices. And the way it works is also that usually all facilities, I assume you know what facilities are in syslog, warning and higher get sent to OMS, but if you need to configure additional facilities, then you can do it in the OMS portal. Select and they get pushed to all agents, which are managed by OMS, all Linux agents. And there is a script, this OMS metaconfig help Python script disable. So if you want to disable certain Linux agents, then you can run this script, and the configuration will not apply from OMS to this agent. Okay. Just a brief demo. The scenario I will show is I have two Linux servers, SUSE01 and SUSE02. And the 02 simulates basically a Cisco device or something like that, shoots a message to the 01, and this one will upload it. So it's I guess it will be a common scenario in enterprises. Okay.
We'll have to hurry up with the demo so everyone can go to lunch.
Yeah, I know. I will do my best 10-finger typing system. That's the wrong one. Or mouse shooting here. So, if you want to figure out, I have to. If you want to figure out which daemon is running on your box, then you could see what processes is blocking this file, the warlock messages. So that's the wrong one. Cannot. We can see here it's the rsyslog daemon is running in the background. There are two files we need to configure. The first one is pointing. I need to figure out what is my IP address. That's, I guess, this one. I hope no hackers are here. And then the etc. What I do is I configure the client basically, which shoots the message to the syslog server. rsyslogd, and then there is on SUSE there is a remote conf configuration which configures this part. I need to uncomment the line and then put it exactly like this. Now I need the IP address. It was 172. I use VI.
Maybe also to mention that it's only rsyslog and syslog ng are supported with the OMS Agent for Linux. Only these two syslog daemons.
So what I do here, it's I point to the server and use 514 for the UDP, and then OMS Agent. No. Service or syslog. I restart the syslog service. Okay. So the client is configured. Now I configure the server itself. there is there are two parts. There is a TCP listener. I have to go up here. That's the TCP part. Here I basically uncomment to load another module, and yeah, that's basically as default. Oh, that's the wrong one, I guess. TCP, oh, that's the wrong one. That's TCP part, sorry about that. Here. Syslog server, here, I found it finally. So, uncomment this stuff here, then our syslog. Linux has also some. What happened here? Think so. I made a mistake there. Okay, so next I will monitor the syslog message log. In real time, so it's and there is a command if you want to test it. There's a logger -p. Then you can you configure what kind of facility? So I use user.warning like this, and then say this session rules. That's my syslog message. So, and if it works, the network, we should see here in the message, in syslog message log, the entry, and then next we can go to OMS, go to the log search. Then there is an already pre-populated query. Next, it's a warning. So now I'm OMS syslog I go and search for all syslogs, warning, and if everything works right, then I should see. It's not up here right now. Maybe it takes a minute or a bit less, and then it will appear here in all those syslog. So, there it appeared. Everyone is happy? Okay, and we just so finally there are some additional resources on the internet. We cannot show everything, we would like to, but the hour is already over. No time anymore. You can download then the slides. There are more upcoming OMS sessions. If you are not in deep dive, if you want to have maybe some more high level, then I'm sure you will find plenty of sessions in this conference. And of course, we want to thank you. Press the green button, I think we need out there. And we would like to thank all the sponsors and to all the audience. Thank you very much.
Thanks.